This week, the workshop is about creating nature images using ink and watercolors. I'm going to show you how we do that. It's based upon this book, Watercolor in Nature by Rosalie Haizlett. And she's an artist in, I believe it's West Virginia, and she does a lot of nature drawing and, in her sketchbook when she's out, and then illustrations when she's back in her studio. Welcome in, everybody. And so I, I am just in love with this book. Actually, I was talking with another artist friend of mine this week, and they were like, "Oh, I love that book." They've done some of the projects out of it as well. So out of this book, I did the frog project out of it, and that is a combination of the ink, so you can see the inking there, as well as the watercolor to bring it alive. And that's the type of thing we're going to do tonight. I don't have to do the froggy. I can do there's a fox in the book, there are mushrooms in the book, there's all kinds of fun stuff in the book. So I'm going to be showing you what the different designs are that we can choose from when we get to the point of going over top of the table. Now, in terms of the supplies that we'll need, of course, this is done on a watercolor paper. Right. So the types of watercolor paper that I use are the Canson XL watercolor paper. This is a cellulose paper. It's not 100% cotton. Um, but for your experimentations, for play, even for sale, you can do your artwork on this Canson XL watercolor paper. It is cold pressed, meaning it has a little bit of texture to it, and it is 140 pounds. Beautiful paper all around. This is the one that I use in my studio all the time. As a matter of fact, there's another piece of artwork in that same book because I just keep making art. I can't help it. And then this is the paper that the frog is done on. The frog is done on the Jack Richardson watercolor paper. So right here, hey there, natural frequency cells. Welcome in over on Whatnot. This is the Jack Richardson brand watercolor paper. And this happens to be the 6 by 9 size. What I like is that you can buy it in 50 sheet sets. It's not taped on any of the sides. They're loose sheets like this. You just pull the sheets out and you're ready to go. This is a 135 pound. Now, bear in mind, they have an 88 pound, which is much lighter than this, but I recommend for this kind of technique that we're going to be doing tonight with the ink pens, and then the watercolor, I recommend the 135 pound. And this is where you see 135 and the pound sign. So that's 135 pound watercolor paper from Jack Richardson. It's slightly lighter than the Canson. The Canson is 140 pounds. This is 135 pounds. So whichever one works better in the size for you. Um, Either one of them are great papers. So we're going to be using this Jack Richardson paper tonight to do our drawing on. And then we're also going to need some pens, because we're going to start by, well, we need a pencil first. This is the Blackwing pencil that I usually use for my sketching. The reason I like to use the Blackwing pencil for sketching is that it erases really well. So when I did this frog, I erased and I erased and I erased and I erased because I drew and then I didn't like the proportion and I erased it and then I drew some more. I recommend that you use a light hand as you're drawing, and a pencil like this Blackwing is perfect for this kind of sketchy so that you can do lots of erasing. My favorite eraser is the Staedtler Mars plastic eraser. This is my favorite. I have these all over my studio. Everywhere that I might sit down or need to write something, I have that Staedtler eraser there. After having made the drawing and done the erasing and getting my proportions right, then I go in and I ink. These are the Sakura Micron pens. And this one is a size 05. So you can see it right here on the barrel. It says 05. And this is the graphic one, meaning it's one size one. And you can see the sizes on the ends also right there of the pens. So these are my favorite pens for doing inking. There are other brands, other types of pens. These happen to be black. If I want to use colors, I also have these Winsor and Newton fine. Sometimes you hear them called fine liners, right? So these fine liner pens, there's the navy blue and there's the sepia color. So it just depends on what color you want your lines to be. Hey there, flower gazer, welcome in. Good evening to you as well. It depends on whether you want to work with a black line or a blue line or a brown line. It's up to you. Um, However, I think it's important to have a thinner version and a thicker version of the pen for the technique that we're going to use tonight, which is why I was recommending the O5. You can use the O3 or the O5. Oh, good, good, good. Flower gazers, looking forward to this watercolor lesson. Great. I have been painting for a long time, but when I read this book, you weren't here earlier, Flower Gazer. This is the book that we're working from tonight, Watercolor in Nature. And this book, of course, will be linked in the description of the video on YouTube after the workshop. And there are some techniques that she shows about, first of all, you're sketching and then you're inking. And I'm like, oh my gosh, duh. I didn't even know about that. And I should have instinctively known, but sometimes you just have to read it and then it clicks. And then I said, oh my gosh, okay, I get it now. Totally get it. And that I felt really good about the outcome of my little froggy here, which was a project directly from her book. We're also going to be using some watercolors, right? Because after we do our sketching and then inking, and then we're ready for watercolor. This is the Christy Rice watercolor set. It's a travel watercolor set and it comes with 12 colors. But you're going to see that inside I have customized it. Hey, Caroline, welcome in, welcome in. You're going to see that I've customized it with more colors. Normally there's nothing in the middle here, right? And I put a whole row of colors in there. So I took some of my own personal colors and I put them in there. So you get 6 on this side and 6 on this side of the Christy Rice set. For instance, this neon yellow is from the Christy Rice set. And then I supplemented it with a bunch of other colors. Now there's also room over here, and I put some more colors over here, like dioxazine purple, ultramarine blue, black. So there is room, not just here, but over here to put in a few of your colors that you may not use as often as well. And then I reserve this area over here for my color mixing. That's a nice compact size to travel with, and it has the ring on the bottom. So if you like to hold your paints in one hand, you put your finger through the ring, and then that way, if you're outside maybe and you want to hold on to it, that helps you to hold that while you're painting. That's the reason for that ring underneath all of those sets, right? Now, that's not the only set. That's a set that I have customized to myself. But another set that I really like using and will be using tonight is a set of core watercolors. These are by um, Golden Paints, QOR. And the core watercolors, I buy them in tubes. They do have pan sets, meaning sets that have the paint already poured into those little squares. But I prefer getting the tubes, and then I customized my own palette. Here is the palette that I customized. The interesting thing is that this is a Christy Rice palette, actually. So this is another beautiful Christy Rice palette, but you'll notice it's significantly larger than this one. Why? This is designed for an initial 12, and this is designed for an initial 24. Now, you can actually, if you're using half pans, which is what these are called, half pans, instead of 12 along each row, you can actually fit 13 if you're using regular small half pans. So that's what I've done. I have 13 here and 13 here, and you see how the middle is mostly empty. I can fill the middle. I actually already have a yellow one right here that I've begun to fill the middle with. And same thing, if I wanted to, I could put more paint over here or just use it for color mixing, which I'm doing right now. And then I have my color mixing over here. And it also has the finger loop on the bottom if I wanted to hold it like that, if I was outside painting with it. What I've done then is I've customized these little pans with my own colors out of the tubes. You'll see the bottom of the tube is, I squeezed it and I'm squeezing the paint into these little, this comes with empty half pans. So I customized it with the colors of the core watercolors that I wanted. So you can customize your, you can get empty um, empty travel sets. It's called a travel palette. You can get an empty travel palette and then fill it with your own paints if that's what you prefer to do. In the beginning, you want to buy a set that's already made, like the set that I got from Christy Rice was already made, and then I started customizing it with, because you want more color, right? At least I always do. I'm always looking for more color. All right. Besides that, sometimes when I'm sitting at my desk, I like a porcelain palette. Most of the time I use just an open palette. But I found this in my bag. I'm like, that is so cute. I love these little flower palettes, which is why it was in my travel bag. And so I thought I would show it to y'all. It is ceramic, which is awesome because they're so easy to clean. They don't get stained. If you use a plastic one, they can tend to get stained. And if I'm mixing special colors, I may want to use this for tonight. Maybe yes, maybe no. You know, most of the time, this is fine using these mixing areas over here, but sometimes I just need more mixing space. So it's convenient to have one of those around. Brushes wise, I like for this type of technique where we're working relatively small. We're not working large, right? We're working small. This is a 6 by 9 inch piece of paper. And so I don't need big brushes for this kind of project. And these are size 4 Princeton brushes. You can use size 4, a 4 round, and you can use this is a size 6, so I had recommended on my website the size 6 or the size 4 are good for the type of work that we're doing tonight, because you see here I wanted to work around these little spots on this toad or the frog, and I didn't want to get paint everywhere. The larger your brush gets, the little bit harder it gets to get the paint only where you want it, right? So that's why I recommended the size 4 or the size 6 brush. But any sort of small watercolor brush, you'll be fine with what we're doing tonight. And then let's see. Okay, Flower Gazer has the size 8 Princeton. Yes, that's this one right here. The Princeton size 8 Velvet Touch, which is a great, yes, it's your favorite watercolor. I would say this is probably my favorite all around for watercolor as well. Oh, you ordered the size 4. Perfect. Because the size, now another one that I have here, just so I can show it to you. This is a detail brush, same thing, it's the Princeton Velvet Touch, but can you see that teeny tiny little tip that it has to it? That is a 5/0. So I don't know if you can see that. It says 5/0. And that is a super detail. So if you needed to get in around little areas where you didn't want paint, you could use this teeny tiny brush to get in there. That's the nice thing about this Princeton Velvet Touch line, is that you can buy individual brushes. You don't just have to buy them in sets. And I've used them for years. As a matter of fact, this one looks nice and clean be- because it's a recent one that I picked up. But this one right here, that's my size 6, you can see the 6 is worn off. I don't even know if you can see the 6. I kind of have to look at it from the side to see the 6 because I've used it for so many years. It's coming off. Now, the other thing I have on my table that I love is the collapsible travel water container from Faber-Castell. And the reason I like this is as I'm working, I can put my brushes on there on the scalloped edge, right? And that holds my brushes because normally I'm using more than one size brush and it'll hold my various brushes as I'm working. Another thing that I use on my desk, that's always on my desk, is oh, it's freezing a little bit. Uh-oh. I noticed on YouTube that it froze too. There's no storm or anything here, so I don't know what's going on. I do apologize if it does stop a little bit. This is a little wooden brush holder, and I keep that on both of my desks. And that's where if I have wet brushes that I've already rinsed or even brushes with paint on them, I will just stick them on there to hold them up off the table so they don't roll around and get paint everywhere. I have two. They are available in sets of two. And if you are looking for any of these supplies, you can always go to my website. Let me show you this if you're not familiar. Uh, come my website is Deets Art, right here, deetsart.com. I'll hold that up so you can snap a picture if you need to. And on my website, there is a page called um, supply links. And so you can find things like the little brush holder and stuff in there. We are going to go over top of the table. Oh, before we go over top of the table, I'm going to show you the different kinds of animals that and plants that she has in the book here. And then I want you to tell me what you would like me to draw and paint. First of all, let me tell you, this book is so amazing. Uh, Here she tells you about the materials that you need to get started. Also, see how she just illustrates these things instead of showing you a picture, she illustrates paper towels and stuff like that. It's like she's just going to illustrate everything. Notice the type of pen that she's showing you there is the same kind that I just showed you a minute ago. That's the Sakura Micron Pens. And then I also like that she shows you her color palette. These are the colors that she uses in inside the book. Of course, we're going to mix different colors. We don't have to stick to just these. For instance, she says sap green. Well, guess what? I have sap green, but it's in a tube in the other room. And in my palettes, I have all different kinds of greens. So you can see here, I was experimenting with a piece of watercolor paper and saying, okay, how can I get close to her sap green here in order to know kind of practice the mixes to be sure that I was going to be able to kind of get the effect that she wanted. But these are the colors that she likes. It's a cadmium yellow, a yellow ochre. This is cadmium yellow light and alizarin crimson. This is her burnt umber, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and sap green. Those are the 8 colors that she uses throughout the book. I use a million different colors and I just mix whatever I want. But in the beginning, I love her book because in the beginning, if you're starting out, just a limited palette here of colors, it's a lot easier to work with, right? And follow along with her projects. Let me see if there's something else here. She talks about building up layers and she talks about how this is an important concept to get right up in the beginning, I think. And that's why I'm glad that she put it here in the book. And it's the difference between if you try to use white to bring back your whites after the painting process, um, Actually, yeah, that's this one where she tried to add the white back in, or if you just leave the white of the paper. It's okay to not paint everything and leave some of the white of the paper for your highlights. It actually does look better. Then here she shows you all of the projects that are in the book. Isn't that awesome? Just, I love that she gives you a summary like this instead of just saying it in words. I'm going to show these to you. We have a daisy, a moth, a mushroom, some fiddler ferns, a praying mantis, an antler, moose antler, the froggy, that's the one I did, an owl, a snail, and a caterpillar on a milkweed. That's one page. Bear these in mind because I'm going to ask you to tell me as I'm going over the table, think about it and tell me which one you would like me to do. Over here we have a sprig, tree sprig or branch sprig, a beautiful butterfly. That's what my friend did. She liked doing the butterfly, sassafras leaf, a pine cone, a bunny, a birdie, a salamander. Down here, what do we have down here? Blueberries, wild blueberries, a duck, and a fox. I really want to do the fox, but it's up to y'all. If there's something here on these pages that you want me to do, the snail or the fox, flower gazer already jumped in there. The snail or the fox. Yeah, I love the fox myself as well. Haven't done it yet, but aren't these fun? And one of the things also that I like in the book, let me go to the salamander, page 118. She does give you the mantis, the owl, or the fox. Thank you, Caroline. Caroline. Yeah, I love the praying mantis too. Isn't it cool with the little mandibles, at the front and the big long arms? They're so cool. This is a salamander, and she talks about using picture references, but also to give your illustrations a little more interest sometimes than what shows up in the picture because we're artists, so we can change things, right? It's just paper and paint. Do it. Here's her salamander, and you see the long tail right here, the straight tail. She changed the tail and made it a curved tail. And she said by doing that, it added a lot of interest. So throughout the book, you see here where it says top tip, she's giving a tip talking about adding that hook to the tail right there and how it adds more interest to your design. That's why I said I can't recommend this book enough because of the little tricks she gives you like that are great ideas. Plus, each one of the projects, she'll give you, let me see if it's here. I'm just looking. Hold on just a second. She shows you here, this is your color palette. You see how simple this one is for the butterfly? Just a simple color palette on this one. So in the beginning, she shows you that color palette. Let me see if there's another one here that has a little more color to it so that you can see one that has this one, which is the caterpillar with the milkweed. You see how many colors she used in that one? It's good then, depending on whether you want to try something with what's called a limited palette or you want to try something that has a lot more colors in it. She's telling you right up front for each one how many colors are used in it. I just, I am so thrilled with this book. Anyway, let's go ahead over top of the table and get started with the painting. I think that we will start with the core set of paints, and then if we need this one, well, I'll grab some colors from over here because I like all the colors, right? I like having all the colors at my disposal. It's a little crazy. There we go. That one's up there in case we need it, I can grab it. We're going to focus on these colors. These are the core colors from Golden. Golden Paints makes a watercolor line called Core, Qor. I don't know whether the Core paints are made in the US. Let's see. I have a label right here. Let me look. Let me look. They have their own instead of just using most of the time water what's it called? It'll come to me. Um, Somebody put it in the chat. What's the binder for watercolor? The normal one. Um, Gum arabic. Thank you. So the core watercolors are bound together with something they called Aquazol. So it's a patented binder that they created. And I'm looking to see if it says made in USA on the tube here, because that's my understanding is that it's made in the USA. Does it say there? Golden Artists, New York. Doesn't specifically say made in the USA, but that's my understanding is it's patented in the USA. I don't know whether they're made in the USA or not. All right. It probably says on a box, but I don't buy them by the box. I buy them by the individual tube. All right. Let's take a look then, since it came in mantis, owl, or fox, and the snail or the fox. So it sounds like the fox it is. Ooh, this owl is so much fun. Let's go to the fox. I think the fox may be the last one. Okay, here's another concept that I love from this book. We're going to cover this over here. And we'll just put the book right here. See, here's another concept that I love about the book. Do you see how she breaks all of her images down into basic shapes? So we have a triangle for the head, triangles for the ears, kind of a little swooping rectangle here for the body, and a square down in this area. And then she shows you how to fill that out with your pencil. And I am just loving that. I know that's like basic, but the crazy thing is, I have taken so many years. I took several years of drawing classes, and they still, why don't I remember that? I don't remember that. I just love the way that her book lays it out for us. We're going to start with the pencil. This happens to be the Blackwing pencil, and I've got my 135-pound Jack Richardson paper here. I'm going to start with putting the square down here, and just notice I don't just do a line like that. I like to do short movements. And I think that I need to move. See, the nice thing about using the pencil and using very light movements is I want to move it over just a little bit more that way. So you are going to rely on this Stapler eraser, I can tell you that. So just very light lines like that. And it needs to be a square, so we're going to bring it up just a little bit more. If you wanted to, you could be a little more purposeful and use a ruler, but I usually eyeball it. I just eyeball it. Okay. So if we're going to do a square, it's going to be about like that. Starting out with the square. And square on the bottom, that's where the legs and around the tail are going to be. Then I have a swoop up, broop, like that, a little swoop. And then I have another curve over here that's going to meet the side of the. So I'm just swooping. You see how I'm swooping there? Swooping up, and then just come straight across. That kind of tells us where the chest of the animal is. It's almost a little too tall. Let's bring it down just a little bit like that. And then, so I've got my swoop for the chest. And then I'm going to put in the triangles. I've got a triangle that comes out here. And if I were to swoop this over a little bit more, the triangle ends right about there. For this particular, because I've never done this one before, I'm using the book as the exact reference. But once you get comfortable with using your shapes, you'll look at an item and then go, oh, that's a triangle, that's a circle, that's a square, that's an oval. And it'll help you to begin um, figuring out how to shape your different items. Let's bring this down here. And she has it coming out here and then down and then over. I'm looking at the shape that she has underneath. There we go. Just start building your lines, building your lines. Let's do the triangle for the head here. Oh, I need to bring it up just a little bit more. Erase, erase, erase. I do that all the time. I'm constantly erasing. Boy, let me tell you, on the frog, to get the right proportions, I was erasing a lot. A lot. This curves over. So that's the head curves over. And we want it to come down. That's why you're using a good pencil and a light touch, right? Come up, down. We're going to put one ear starting from over here. It's a triangle. There's one ear. And then there's another ear that starts over here. Another triangle. And comes down. Okay. That is the basic, right? The basic head shape. I was so excited when I did the book, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like a lot easier. 'Cause I normally do abstract stuff, so to do illustration is a challenge for me. That's why I like books like this, right? Because it's a challenge. It's not what I'm used to doing. And I like to get out of my comfort zone when I'm doing something new, right? Okay. I feel like I have the proportions of the head going there. Now I need to build some of the body proportions. We follow along this line right here. We come in just a little bit. Now I'm looking at the second picture. The first picture I followed already. I've got triangle, 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 body swoop, square. Now she comes in and starts putting the features in. So if you need to take a picture of that little area here where we're doing the fox, do that so that you can refer back to it if you need to. I highly recommend you buy this book because this is just one of the many projects you saw in there, right? Okay, part of the triangle here, we're going to define the ear just a little bit. We're going to add some dimension to this ear over here. The face actually comes where the ear is, comes down, out. There's an eye there. So the eye comes out and down and then swoops up to the nose. The nose is so cute, right? I just had to erase right here where I'm creating the eye and coming down to the snout. The snout is a kind of a triangle, sort of a triangle off the face right there. And then she adds a cute little wispy mouth. Hello, mouth. This part is going to come down into the neck. Remember what I said about erasing? Erase, 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 right? Now I'm erasing these lines. And if I say, oh, you know what? The nose, the snout looks a little too short. This is where you correct that. I'm going to bring this bottom part of the mouth down just a little bit more and in. I'm more comfortable with that. Okay, let's bring the mouth around here. So we've got our mouth, and now I've got my little bit extended snout because the snout wasn't, to me, wasn't thick enough. It was a little too thin. Okay. And then we've got an eye. I'm going to put the eye in. It's a little bit down from here. We're just going to bring the eye in like this and like this. See the eye in there? Okay. And then as far as the top ear here, we can get rid of the top of the head because really it's just part of the ears at this point. And oops, we've got one ear coming back behind the other ear. And then we've got we see more of the inside of this ear. Let's get rid of the head there. Erase, erase, erase. Because what we're erasing is we're erasing those initial shapes that we created, the triangle and all that kind of good stuff. Okay. Let me just get this a little bit better, like this. There we are. And then, oh, we're beginning to get a fox. It looks to me like I made the eye a little bit too big, though. And this is the time to correct that, right? So let's make the eye just a little bit smaller over here. Before we ink it, as long as we're doing the as long as we're using the pencil, then we're fine. We're fine. It looks like I don't have the eye. This bump needs to be down just a little bit more here. There we go. I didn't have my bump down far enough. It wasn't looking proportional, right? And we've got the part of the chest. We've got part of the body coming down here. Let's fix those lines. Before you ink, you want to get all your lines the way you want them to be. There we are now. And then underneath here, we come down, and then there is a leg. So the leg actually comes out of the square. That's okay. As we're developing the body, we can get rid of those things. We've got the body comes here and down here and around the back. A lot of times I'll just do the initial sketch of a shape, knowing that something else is going to be coming through it, and I'm just going to be erasing it. That is okay. This right here, I have another leg. Where is the leg? I have my line across here. The leg comes a little bit above here with the elbow, and then it comes down, and then we have a little bit like that. And then here, we're going to bring the leg down like this. I've got it coming in. We have a little elbow right there. See, now I didn't put the elbow in the right place. So this is a lot of trial and error when you're doing this part of it. See, now the leg is not, I'm looking at it and the leg is the right shape, but it's not the right width. Width. Okay, so I need to bring it over and make it just a little bit bigger. We've got a little sort of elbowy thing there. Okay. Ah, now I'm happy. Hey, DSWI Heart, welcome in, welcome in. We're doing a fox illustration based upon a book tonight, one of my favorite nature books. It's called Watercolor in Nature by Rosalie Haizlett. And we're following along with the Fox project, but there are tons of projects in here, and I highly recommend this book. All right, that looks, well, there's part of the problem is that they show, nope, that's okay. There's the body. Got to get rid of the body that's behind the leg, right? Get rid of the body there. Let's do the other half. The other leg here comes down and then flares out. It's a little, there's the other leg. Woof. It looks to me like I have the body, the this portion of the body up too high. Yes, what a beautiful book it is. It's a gorgeous book. I have this part of the body up too high. I'm noticing just from the proportions. You can look, you do need to kind of hold it and go, okay, that doesn't look quite right. I need to fix that. All right. And I can see that the body needs to come down a little bit more like this and over here like this. All right. So I didn't quite have that part right. All right. And this should not be quite so. All right. That's a little bit better. Nope. Duh. The struggle is real, y'all. This is what I go through when I'm drawing and illustrating. Constantly. That's why I use this pencil, and I'm constantly just erase, 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 fix, draw. Now, down at the bottom here, we have a tail. Oh my goodness, the tail is so cute and so fluffy. So just outside our box right here, we're adding a jagged little tail. So the tail has little jagged marks on it. It's going to go like this. It's kind of jaggedy, right? As it goes along, it's actually going to go behind this foot. Oops, so I need to bring it up just a little bit more. It's going to go behind the foot here. Boop. Eventually, there's going to be a paw there. Let's get rid of the square, right? And then your image will begin to sort of develop. So let's put that back behind there. We have a bit more. And then it comes out the other side. The tail does like this. And then it fluffs, a little more fluff in here. And then it comes back down. There we go. Nope. Needs to be up a little bit higher, a little more fluffy, a little fluffier right in here. There we go. It's okay when you do watercolor if your drawing shows underneath. And we're actually going to be inking this, so it's even, you're going to see the ink lines. Even though in her project she doesn't ink it, I'm going to show you how we ink it. Okay. And let's see here. Just at this point, I can get rid of those other, like the square and those other things, right? There is the basic fox. Let's get rid of the square lines. Nice. All right. This actually looks like it comes down and sort of goes like that. There we go. Now, normally you would be looking at a picture of a fox. Oh, and my favorite place to get pictures is to go to what's called Pixabay, um, Pixabay, Pixabay. That's my favorite place to go get copyright-free images. Um, with those images, you can use them for your work, but they are not, well, they're royalty-free images, sorry, not copyright-free. So the person that created the image does maintain the copyright, but you are allowed to use the image for your artworks to paint. And You know, they ask that if you can to give them credit, but you don't have to give them credit. You can, but you do not publish their artwork. Do not publish their photographs. That's one of the things that they say in there. Don't publish their photographs. Uh, so you'll find that if I refer to Pixabay, I may show you on a video, but I don't publish it on my website. I just tell you where to go get them. They want you to go to Pixabay to get them, which is fine. All right, that's the basis of the fox. Let's go move on to the next one. That was the, so it was lay out the basic shapes, your triangles, your different shapes, then modify the shapes. So start adding some of the details and the curves and things to it. Then she's saying sketch in the fluffy areas. So let's sketch in a little bit of the fluff here on our fox. See, my nose is not quite right. You know what it is? My nose is too long. That's what it is. The nose is too long. So we'll bring the nose here and then we'll bring this in like this. Let's see if that helps to, does that help to fix it? I don't know. We'll see. My nose is sticking way too far off there. It's all right. This is just a fun illustration. I'm not going to get too crazy about it. All right. She says, put in a little bit of the fluff. So there's a little bit of fluff right here on the head. There's some fluff coming out of the ears right here. We have some fluffy fluffies up along the top of the head. Some more hair coming out of the ears right here. Now, for this particular illustration, she likes to leave the pencil marks in. For the frog that I did earlier, if you were here earlier for this frog, I actually erased all the pencil lines after I used a marker. So we'll use a little bit of marker on this and I'll show you how I erase some of the lines. Now here for the face, she has kind of a line coming here and then sort of, I don't know what this is. I don't study this kind of animal, so I don't really know what that little line there is all about, but okay, I don't mind. Let's do the fuzz. And then she's doing fuzz on the hair down here, right? Fuzz all the way down and little fuzzies there. She's given the impression. She wants you to see that this is a fuzzy creature. And then it comes here around, sort of around the neck area. And then there's a little bit of hair coming off the back. Oh, they're so fuzzy and cute. There we go. And then some fuzz around here, a little bit more fuzz here, a little bit more fuzz here. See, so you can just be very gentle with how you add a little bit of more fur in there. She's got some fur that comes from the body here down toward the elbow of the leg right there. Let's do that a little bit more. And then she's got more fur that comes down sort of around the chest area. Just so you're defining the chest, right? A little bit more back here. Ooh, this fox is fun. Love the scribble. Okay, we're gonna put a little bit, she did a little bit more hair here, a little bit of hair here, a little bit more here. The reason she's doing these scribbles is there are areas of the fox that are white, and so she's wanting to sort of define the fuzzy areas and leave some of the areas white. And that's, let me pull this up so you can see right there. All right, let's get to a little bit more of the fuzzies here. Where else? She has some fuzzy coming down here like this for the under fuzzies. There's also some fuzzy that sort of comes off the chest, right? So the chest is a little bit more fuzzy down there and a little bit more fuzz. She's just given the tail a little more dimension here. Cool. So that's the basic fox right there. Um, using the, and I'm gonna do this because I need to bring this out just a little bit more. I'm just looking at it now proportion wise, and I want to bring this in just a little bit more here. I'm just looking at the back, the hind quarters. I think I want to bring it out just a little bit more. So like I said, periodically hold your picture up, look at it. Do those proportions look right? No, this chest needs to come, see, the chest needs to come out just a little bit more and then down. So I'm going to erase some of these fuzzies. Do, 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 do. And I'm going to put some more fuzzies in here. There we go. I just made the chest a little bit further down here to kind of match the line that's underneath here. There we go. Okay. Let's I want to show you the idea of what she did for inking, like with the froggy, although in the book she does not ink this one. You can see her book is divided into two sections with the images here. This section, ink and watercolor projects. That's what I did with the frog. This section is watercolor only, meaning you're drawing with pencil and then you're painting it with watercolor and not using the pen. But really liked the effect that the pen gave to the frog. So I'm going to show you with the fox how she suggested to use the pen. And now that we have our drawing, woohoo, love the drawing. Let me just move that aside a little bit more so you can see. Can you see that? Yep. All right, good. Now we're going to start with a thinner pen. In this case, I have the Micron 05. The cool thing with the Sakura Micron 05 is you can buy a whole pack of these. So maybe you need, if you use them a lot, you can buy a pack of 12 of these, just size number 5. You'll see there it says size number 5. And that one tends to get a lot of work. I work out my 05 a lot. Now it also comes in other sizes. So this is a 03 and a 08. Um, this is the Sakura Micron. That's not the only company that makes fine liners. This is a Derwent fine liner. And I had shown you earlier these are the Winsor and Newton fine liners. Maybe I'm looking at the brown ones. Maybe we'll use one of the brown ones. See, this is 01, that's tiny, 03, and then there should be a 05, which I don't have here. It's at my other desk, but that's okay. We'll use I might use the 01 for a few little details. I'm going to start, this graphic number 1 is thicker. Let me use a little piece of paper here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is the Pigma Micron graphic number 1, and it has a number 1 on the lid. And so here is the line that that makes. You see how thick that is? That's a pretty thick line. Then we're not going to start with that. We're going to start with a thinner line. This is the 05 that I was talking about. And you can see the difference in how thin the 05 is. Hey, S. Diedrich, welcome in, welcome in. This is the, let's see, the 03. Here's the 03. It's even tinier. You see the 03. And so normally when you do your initial inking, you use a small one like the 03 or the 05, so that you can then come in later with the larger one and add some shadows in, or give your piece some dimension. Let's start with I'm going to start with the 05, and we're going to ink up a few of the items. We're not going to do the whole thing. I just want to show you how this works. Here, it's okay to go right over top of your pencil with your permanent pen, your fine liners, okay? So here, we're going to go right in here. I don't even have to use a solid line. I can use a broken line. It's okay. There we go. So I'm kind of skipping, going a little lightly, lifting my pen up a couple of times so I'm not just, let's go over top here. It's okay to be a little bit sketchy with your lines as well. I'm going to leave this line right here, and I'm going to do that with the brown I was telling you about. Let's say, I know that I'm going to want the eye to be black, right? So I'm just adding in the black eye with a little white highlight on it. Instead of trying to come in later and add white, I'm just going to do it that way. Now, the mouth is normally black, right? Along there. And then here's the below the mouth into the body. So you can begin to see some definition starting to come in. Let's add just a light dark line here. And then where else do I want to do it dark? Let's just sort of do the edge of the ears here. So just like I was using the pencil lightly, I'm used to do that. You can do, solid lines if you want to, but I like to use it more in a sketchy way. Then that way later you can always come back with your heavier pen if you want to darken things, right? Here I'm just going to come along the edge here. I'm sort of just outlining, right? Defining this the outline. There we go. Sketchies. A little bit like this, so you can just see it a little bit better. Like I said, you don't have to do this part. I just thought I would show you. I really liked this part of the book where she showed how to do the inking. I thought that was awesome. All right, and then let's just do a basic part of the back right here. And just sketch. Nothing too defined, right? And then the tail. Let's just sort of, I'm just going near where my little sketch lines are. You don't have to get it perfect. We're going to be coming back in with watercolor. Bear in mind, your watercolor doesn't have to follow this line either. You can be like totally wackadoodle with your watercolor, go totally outside the line, and you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It's just paint and paper. We're here to have a good time. So don't stress yourself. That's a beautiful thing. Sketching and drawing and doing artwork, it's for us to have fun. All right, so I did a little bit of inking there, just in a sketchy way to give a little more definition. I'm going to put this one away, which was the Micron 05. And just to show you this one, this is the Winsor Newton fine liner in brown or sepia color. It's the 01. So it's a teeny tiny little nib here. And I'm just going to go in and define some of the fluff with this one. Why not? We're just going to do a little bit of the fluff with the brown. And just to kind of give it some interesting definition here. Up to the top of the ears. Nice thing about using a point one like this is I put little teeny tiny lines up here, and that way when I go to use my watercolor, I don't have to try to get little tiny lines in there. They're already drawn in there with this fine liner. And then just putting some hair, not worrying too much about it, just having fun because I'm coming back in with sort of an orangey color, and this will very much blend in with that. And then we'll just do a little bit more out here, a little bit more on the chest like that. And some nice hair in here. So yes, that's why we need all the colors of fine liners, right? So if our significant other says, do you really need all those art supplies? What's our answer? Our answer is absolutely. Look, look, right? One time my husband asked me, how much are you spending on art supplies? And I looked him in the eye and I said, less than you are on your boat. And you know what? He never asked me again because he knew I was right. He spent way more money on his boat than I would ever spend on art supplies. There you go. You're welcome. Right? So this is just adding some fun fluff in here with this light brown. Ooh, I love what that does for it. Love it, love it. Now you can see the black and you can see the light brown. Let's go in and create a little bit more definition with our graphic number one. This is the dark marker, right? The thick one, the one that's here, that's the thickest one. Now I can go in and say, okay, I'm going to have a little more of a shadow right underneath here, right? Right underneath the mouth. I'm going to have a bit of a shadow. So I'm going to go in there with the pen and I'm going to emphasize there's a shadow there, right? Yeah, never enough, right, flower gazer? Ah, I know, I know. The underside of the ear right here, that's going to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to go ahead and use my thicker pen and define that area right there. And maybe a little bit more right here on this edge of the ear as well, right? I'm just beginning to build a little bit of extra dimension into the face. Maybe this end of the mouth is just a little bit thicker than the rest. Just adding that little bit. This area right underneath the eye, right there, is going to be a little bit, just a little bit heavier, a little bit darker, right? To just give that some dimension. The nose is going to have a little black spot right in here, right? I want to add that little black spot to the nose. Where else? Underneath here, we're going to have where the body and the leg meet. So we're going to have a little bit more of a shadow, right? There, you see how you're adding a little bit more dimension, right? And right underneath here, we want that to be slightly darker right in there. And then back down underneath here, we want that to be a little bit darker because it is going to be darker underneath the body, right? Now we're going to use some paint to deepen this a little bit as well. But for right now, I'm just putting in some of these areas that I know are going to be nice and dark. Right underneath the nose here also is going to be a little bit dark. Little bit extra darkness right there. There you go. So you're building a little bit over here. Wait, there's more. Right along here, there's going to be a little bit of extra darkness down in there, in that part of the ear. Right? Anywhere else? Hmm. Okay, I think right now we're going to just leave it at that. The nice thing about these permanent markers is that later, after the watercolor's on, if I decide that I need to darken some other areas, it'll go right over top of the watercolor. This graphic, the archival ink from Sakura, the Micron pens, yeah, it'll just go right over top of it. So I don't even have to worry about it. I will just put away my markers for now. I can always come back to them. But you see how darkening and thickening up some of those lines helps to give a little bit more dimension to what you're looking at. All right, let's go back to the Foxy Fox. Like I said, she didn't do the pen lines for this particular piece, but that's okay. Oh, okay, we're getting into watercolor now. So I'm gonna have to put this up here. Let me move this out of the way for a moment. And I'm putting the book up here so I can see it. Oop, let's put something in front of it here so it holds it up for me. Come on, you can hold it up. There. I have it in front of me so that I can see what the image looks like and how she colorized it. And we're starting with that beautiful orange color. She's gonna what I like that she shows you in the book how to build up your layers. So we're gonna start with something in this. We need a kind of an orange. So you see the pyrrole orange over here and the permanent scarlet. I like being in that area. Also, of course, um, in her set, she has alizarin crimson. That's this color right here, and she pairs it with yellow ochre, and that's how she gets her soft red brown. So let's go ahead and kind of follow along with what she said. I'm going to take the Quin. I'm going to take the crimson, and I'm going to add a color that's like a yellow ochre to it. And we're going to do that. I'm going to be using my size 4 Princeton Velvet Touch. So let me get some water here. And first, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. All right. The nice thing about watercolor, of course, is it can be reactivated. So if I need an area that I want to mix some color in, I can just do this. And then I have an area to mix my color in. Hallelujah. All right. Let's take some of that Quin crimson that she was suggesting. One of the reasons I love the core watercolors and I suggest them is that um, the colors re-wet beautifully. And if you weren't here earlier and you didn't see the tube, this is what I'm talking about right here. It's the core, QOR, watercolors by Golden. That's what I'm using right now. And I just put some of the quinacridone crimson in there. And then next I'm using transparent yellow oxide. So those are approximates to what it is that she was suggesting. That's the crimson and the yellow ochre. Very similar. All right, let's start to define this little baby. Love that. Love it. Love it. So that's kind of an orangey color. I wanted a little bit more scarlet. So let's grab a little bit more scarlet in there. This is my I customized this palette with, let's see, so it's 12 and 12, 24, 25, 26. I have 27 colors. Yeah. 27. Yeah. Okay. So she's bringing this in here. It's okay to go very light on your first layer because a lot of watercolor is about the layering. And you want that first layer, you're just getting a feel for what you want where. And let's put this, she does this down into here. Come over top of the eye around the eye there with the light orange color. A little bit more in here. And then, so there are areas where she's leaving white, the white of the paper. She brings a little bit of it up here, some of it back behind there, a little bit out like this. I'm using the tip of the brush right now. And if you have the 8, if you don't have the 4, it's okay. Just you can still use the tip of the brush. Let's bring some color down here. So she's bringing it down around like this. And then a little bit more here. And really taking advantage of that. Now she's not bringing it all the way down in the center because the fox has white in the center there. So she is building some of this out here just to sort of give it a little bit of dimension, and then building some of the fluff. Let's put some fluff on here. Fluffy hair. There we go. And a little bit more color in here. Just beginning to give the idea of some variation there. There we go. All right, so that's the head area right there. Just we're going light. We're going in light. And I just ran out of paint, but I know it's the crimson to get with my yellow. Oh, let's do a very light skim. Boy, let me tell you that crimson is so strong. I'm just adding a little more of the yellow because it's like, wow, y'all, that is bright, 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 bright. A little too bright. All right, let's bring some more yellow in because it's a little too bright. Most artists will tell you, oh, freezing. Is it me? Hi, Devin. Welcome in. You know what's weird is other people were talking about freezing earlier. I have a feeling the freezing is coming possibly from whatnot. So if it is freezing and you can hear me, I suggest that you pop out, refresh the app, so close the app and reopen it and come back in. But yes, other people are talking about it freezing as well. It's not freezing on my end, from what I can see. Okay, let's put some hair down in here. This is quite wet right now. So we're bringing a bunch of the color in here, a little bit of it this way, and along with the, so we're bringing it underneath the neck and across here. The nice thing about having done some fuzzy lines is you can kind of follow along with your fuzz a little bit and figure out where to, and then she's going down into the leg like this, leaving a little bit of lightness in there. If you get paint where you don't want it, I have a brush that I like to use. Okay, where is it? Eee, I'm looking for it right here. There are you. There you are. This is the Princeton Willows blender, but it has a stiff top to it. And I'm back. Yay, Devin. Thank you. If you put paint in an area where you don't want it, you can use this Willows blender. And if you've got a decent paper, you can pick some of that color back up. So I feel like I put a little too much red and I need some of the white back right here. And so I'm just lifting it up just a little bit with this Willows blender. Great brush for corrections. It works better on 100% cotton paper because if you think about it, watercolor first, and then when it's dry, do the inking. Flower gazer. Yes, I love doing that. I love just slapping down a bunch of color and then inking. But I think when you're doing something that's a little more illustrative like this, you want to get your proportions and everything right. And if you put color down first and then you put your pencil lines and you're erasing, what'll happen is as you're erasing, you're going to lift some of the watercolor, which is not a big deal because you could just add more layers of watercolor, right? But that's why I tend to like to put my inking down first and get all my proportions and then do my watercolor. That's just me though. You can certainly do it the other way that you were suggesting. Let's see here. We've got some of this coming out this way because we've got some white underneath there, underneath the leg. And we're going to put some of the red here. It's okay to have some darker areas. I'm just going over it to get a little more dimension. Because the more layers you add, the darker you can get the color there, right? And it's going to be dark right in here. There we go. What else? There's a little bit of extra darkness in here, the back of the leg. You see, I'm just looking at what she's got in there. I've got a little bit more hair to put in here. She wants a little bit of whiteness here, a little white on the belly. On the belly. Let me just do this so I've got, it looks more like little hairs there. Okay, nice. And then we've got a little bit over here in this area, but there's some white fluff. There's some white fluff on the leg. Plus there's a little bit of a highlight on the leg right now. Let's add a little bit more of this up in here. Got a little bit more up in here. Just a little bit. And then a little bit down in here also. Right, that's kind of the areas right now. Oh, and the tail. Let's go ahead and do the tail. She just basically puts color all over the tail. Let's do that just to get an initial bit of color there. There we go. There's the tail. And of course, back behind the tail here is going to be a little darker. So that area has already dried. I can come back in and do a little bit darker on here. So you think about shadows and where your shadows, where your darkest areas are going to be. Okay. And you can add a little bit more color there. She's got a little more color coming over here on this side, making it a little bit darker, adding a little dimension. Let's see, where else does she add a little extra dimension? Maybe right in here. And right down in here, little extra dimension there. And then right where the eye is here, she added a little bit of extra dimension there. Okay, so there's where we have it so far. It's beginning to you're beginning to be able to see something happening there, right? Now, I think when she finished her picture up, she actually had another leg back here. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Let's see where it goes. I like to follow along. I don't like to second guess. I like to follow along. Ooh, that's interesting. She used some green Dark, dark, dark. Well, it's not really green. It's a ultramarine blue and burnt umber. So it's just a dark color. She's creating a dark. Let's create the dark. And it is ultramarine blue, which most people should have on their palette. Most of you should have ultramarine blue. I know the tail doesn't make sense. I know, but you know what? You'll be able to see it when it's done. It'll start to make sense. All right, we're gonna do some ultramarine blue. I have a sort of a blue area over here. Let me get the ultramarine, which is right here. Ultramarine blue. There's the ultramarine blue. And then she uses burnt umber. So I have an umber up here. Let's add some umber to it. I'm getting sort of a gray, more of a gray than a green, which is okay. I might grab a little bit more of the burnt umber. I mean, the ultramarine blue. The opposite of orange is, oh, even in the book. Yeah, that's okay. I'm following along with her illustration, but then of course later if I decided that I needed to change something, I could, right? I like to follow the book for the first illustration and then go crazy a little bit more, go find my own imagery and then do using the techniques, use a different image that I find on Pixabay or up Unsplash and then do it that way. Now, her burnt umber turned it a little more green. So let me find something that, you know what, phthalo blue is a little more green. Let's throw that in there. She's just creating a dark to put in there and start defining shapes. So what I have is the ultramarine blue. I threw a little bit of phthalo blue in there. Oh, you bought the botany book. Nice, right? You said it's fabulous. Yes, 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 yes. Now you see why it's my favorite, like plant reference book, right? Okay, burnt umber and ultramarine blue. What you're going to notice is different companies, their formulas can to be slightly different. And so that's why I decided, you know what, for this, I'm going to pick up a little bit of phthalo blue because phthalo blue has a little green in it. And if I really want to green it up, there's another color here called a phthalo green. Do you see that one? Whoa. So if I want to green it up a little bit, I'll just grab a tiny bit of phthalo green and bam, there we go. There's a color that's kind of aqua-like, a little bit more ultramarine I want in there. There we go. That's a nice dark. I want a little bit. Oh, I'm a crazy woman. I just dip, 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 dip. All right. There we go. I threw a little bit more of the ultramarine in there and I'm like, now I'm happy. Now I'm happy. But definitely follow along with her color suggestions if it's your first time. Um, she's adding a little bit of darkness up here at the tip of the ear. Okay. And then a little bit of darkness inside the ear here. Now, if you put the dark, what I like to do a lot of times is, like for instance, with that dark, I'm gonna take my paper towel and I'm gonna pick up some of the color. You see how it lightens it just that little bit? It's definitely dark, but now I've just lightened it just a tiny bit because I don't want it to be too harsh in the beginning. I can always come back and put another layer in and deepen the dark, but that helps to give your darks some dimension if you start out with it being not so dark and then add a little bit more. We're going to go around the eye. So let me grab just a little bit more water. And she creates a little bit of dimension here around the eye, a little bit back in the back here to kind of define the eyeball. A little bit down around here, right? Just to sort of indicate there's a little bit of dimension there on the eye. There we go. So we're creating a little bit of a recess there. Then she also comes in here and puts some dark underneath the mouth and a little bit of dark along here, right? A little bit of dark in here. She adds a little bit of dark in there. There we go. Ooh, interesting. Interesting. Let's put a little bit here, but bearing in mind we want to leave a little white mark up at the top of the nose, right? A little highlight right there at the top of the nose. And then she starts bringing some extra dimension into the hair here, coming up like this. This is why it's really helpful to have this size 4 brush to do these little hairs. A little bit of hair there, a little bit extra here. Bring it a little bit extra in here. So where I put the little brown spots. She's putting little blue bits right there because she didn't use a marker and I did. But that's okay. We're good. We're good. We're just putting something up in there for the ear. All right. A little bit more. She's using this to give a little more dimension to the hair all over the place here. Underneath here, where it's naturally going to be darker. So we're pulling some more hair in along here. Right? You see how we're beginning to do more of the shape definition using this darker color. Let's do Colored for Cause is here. Yay! Hello, hello. Welcome in, welcome in. So I'm just playing around with some more of this. She's got lots of rings of the interesting thing is that when you're working with white, you can use these blues to kind of give the impression that you've got fluff within the white. Because, right, like if you go and you look at snow, especially in the shadow areas, often you're going to find there's a lot of blue and purple in the snow, right? And so that's what she's taken advantage of here is she's using this little bit of blue to give you that concept that there is some white fur here. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Want plenty of water on there because I don't want it to be too dark. More, more. She's doing more, 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 more in the white here. More fur. And up, 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 up. And it mates like that, right? And wait, but wait, there's even more. There's more. Oh my goodness. It's okay if it goes through the orange as well. That's fine. It's fine. It's all good. So she's giving that impression of um, the hair coming around here. Let's, and then she's bringing some of it down this way, like this. If you weren't here earlier, I'm using a size 4. This is a size 4 Princeton Velvet Touch watercolor brush. So this is synthetic squirrel in here. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? She's got a little bit more of the blue sort of coming out and giving you the shadow areas within the orange, like that. Let's see, what else does she have? She's got some where I made the thick black right there. Oh, Devin, okay, you're curious about the reference book. Let me show you real quick, and it will be linked in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight. I'll go in and add it. It's Watercolor in Nature, and the author is Rosalie Haizlett. And underneath it says Nature Illustrator. She's amazing. Amazing. Um, Devin, you should go back and watch the replay, the part that you missed on YouTube tomorrow. Because I, well, I wax on about the book. So the people who've already been here, it's like, yeah, I went a little crazy on talking about the book because I just, she's so good. She is so good in this book about explaining all of these techniques. And she has some great projects. Oh, and you probably didn't see earlier. Oh, you don't YouTube. Okay, no worries. Um, this is another project from the book that I did, The Frog, with the sketching and the inking and then the watercolors, right? And that was a project out of the book as well. Just phenomenal. Phenomenal book. Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. Let's want to make sure I've got all of the goodies that she has here that she wants to show. All right, she's using more of the blue down here to make it mean like it's kind of white. White, 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 white. Okay. I'm just making sure I've got all of her shadows everywhere. She's got some over here. And then she's got any in the, yep, little bit in here in the tail. Let's see, more, a little bit more in the tail, right up in here. Just giving her a little bit more dimension, that's all. Just a little more dimension. And where else? Coming down here. There we go. I think that's pretty good. That pretty much shows there's some white there, there's some the blue. It does look like she adds a little bit more blue out here to show the fur going down the back. Okay, a little bit more like that. Then she uses a, oops, hold on a second. I didn't quite get down at, there's some shadow on the legs down here. Shadow at the bottom of the leg there, and some shadow. Let's see, then there's some shadow down in here also. Right, yep, right over top of that. We have some shadow. And we have some shadow. It's okay if the blue goes over top of the orange, it'll create a kind of a gray. Okay. And that is a-okay. All right, fabulous. There we go. Now she uses some green to create, you see this right here? The leaves or the grass that the little fox is sitting in. Let's mix up some of that green. And you see all the greens I was mixing earlier today, saying, okay, what am I gonna, what am I gonna mix? So we already have a little bit of green on the palette here. I'm gonna take some of the Hooker's green, which is a deep dark green, but she wants us using something called sap green. So the sap green needs to be a little bit lighter than the Hooker's green. And to do that, I'm gonna use some of this cadmium yellow. That's one of the colors that she has in her palette is cadmium yellow. So I'm adding cadmium yellow to my Hooker's green because Hooker's green is a little bit darker. Now that I'm looking at the book and that's a little bit too light. See there, a little bit too light. And so I am going to add a little bit more of the hooker's green, and that's closer to the color that she wants. But I like funky greens, so I'm going to grab a little bit of phthalo green because I like to punch up my colors, and phthalo green will do that. And so now I have a nice green going on, and she's just adding some, like, bah! Don't you hate to do that? You hate to paint right over top of what you've already painted, but okay, okay, I can do it. I can do it. She just has us doing this. All right, putting some grasses in here, right up in there. So the fox is sitting in the grass. Let's see here. Little bits. It's okay. They don't all have to be big bits. There we go. Got some more coming up here into there, right? Because the fox is sitting in the grass. Oh my gosh, it's sitting in the grass. It's okay. And over here, off to the side, as well as more off to the side there. Okay, that hurts. Right? To go right over top of what you've already done. And it's like, okay, okay. I'll survive. It's all right. I can do it. Okay, we have our green. Phew. Um, Now what she wants us to do is darken some of these orange areas with a little more brown. Okay, that's where burnt sienna comes in. And I don't have a burnt sienna, but I can use yellow iron oxide, which is similar to your it's the same as yellow ochre. It's just this is a transparent version of it from Core. Okay, so there's our yellow ochre, and then um, a little bit of the red oxide. Let's see. Yeah, that's nice. That's kind of a deeper orangey color. That's what I'm looking for. This is a brighter orange that I have here, and I want to deepen some of the areas. So I'm going to use a little bit deeper orange right here. And this is where you're building some extra dimension here into the face. Right? Just making it a little bit more interesting. Just another layer to add more depth. We're putting a little bit more of it up here. And I'm dotting it so I can get some extra, so it looks like hair, right? We just put a little bit there. Where else do we want it? We want a little bit more darkness right up in here. I actually need to add a little bit more darkness. Woo, not that much darkness. Okay, not the first time I've done that. Where I'm like, I want it a little darker, and then it goes, whoa, a lot darker. It's okay. That's okay. There we go. That's better. And then where else do I want it? So she's just taken all the areas that should be just that little bit darker and adding some of the darkness in. The area behind the head right here, right behind and underneath the neck will be a little bit darker. This area behind the eye will be that little bit darker right there. The area right here will be that little bit darker. Where else do we want to build some darkness? Back behind this leg right here. This leg is sticking out. So right behind it, it's going to be darker. Let's bring in some of the darker. like that. And of course, underneath the his head is going to be that little bit darker. And then down in here. Okay, where else do we want it to be darker? Oh, we need a little more red to go down inside. Down. Um, they're actually bringing a lot more red in here, like the area right underneath there, right? Because that area is going to be a little bit, just a little bit darker. And then where else? Where else? Some more darkness down in here and on the hair. And then really dark down in here, right? Really, really dark down in there. Where the grass is going to be. Ooh, I bet there's a bunch of darkness on the tail too. I bet, I bet, I bet. Okay, let's just do this. We got some more darkness coming down in there. Ooh, lots of darkness in here. So where before I was saying, how come, there's going to be some body, another leg back behind there, right? And so what she's done is gone in and darkened this whole area where there's going to be more body down underneath there. Okay, like that. Sort of like that. Okay. And let's see right here, because the chest comes down and around and under, right? So right where that chest comes under, there's going to be a little more darkness in here. And then on the legs, let's get the legs a little darker as well. There's some darkness coming here. Stroke, stroke, stroke. So you get that look of hair, okay? She actually has a little bit of darkness like this up in these hairs as well. To kind of just give them a little more dimension, a little bit more over here, and even down into here. Okay. Let's see. The legs are actually quite dark, so we're going to add some more of the brown in down underneath here as it goes back behind there. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the dark. It's going to be dark. A little bit more darkness. She's got a lot more darkness right here on the legs, which makes sense. It makes sense. The legs are going to be super dark as they go down underneath the grass, right? The same here. We've got a lot of darkness right here. And where else down the leg? Down the outside of the leg. And then it gets dark, 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 dark. Down underneath there. Dark, dark, more brown underneath here for the legs. And then let's look at the tail. Okay, I just got a little bit where I didn't want it, so I'm going to use that Willow's blender brush, right? And I'm just going to pick up some of that brown because it was fresh. It just came over and got onto the tail. Now, what is she doing with the tail? She's just adding small tufts of brown on the tail. Let's see here. We're going to use some more of this red. Yeah. Okay. And then she's just adding a few marks on the tail like this to keep it looking fluffy. And I'm trying to go around the grass. I don't really want to have The grass is in front of the tail, right? Not behind it. So there we go. Little bitty bits around there. So there's the tail, the darkness. I can see back behind in here. It's even darker. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of that brown. Ah, the brown is so heavy, that burnt umber. Wow. So I just added a little bit more water in order to get it. Yes, it'll be brown, but I don't want it to overwhelm the whole composition. There we go. But it does need to be dark in there. Dark, 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 dark. There we go. A little bit darker. That's one of the things my drawing teacher used to always tell me. More contrast. Add more contrast. Ah, okay, okay. So just keep looking for the areas where you can define that the uh the shape and the darkness. Now, I want to be sure that I've got some hair coming down this way back here. There we go. And what about the face? Do I want a little bit more dark on the face? Yeah. She has a little more darkness here and a little more darkness below and behind the eye. There we go. Okay, we're beginning to get some shape going there. Ah! I like the face better than I like the body, but you know what? It's all a learning process. All right. Now she's saying put some finishing touches on there, which includes what? Foxes, cats, dogs, they have whiskers, right? So that's the finishing touch that she's saying. Go in there and put some whiskers on that puppy. Let's go ahead, and if I'm not comfortable with this number 4 brush, I showed you earlier, there's a number 2 and there's also a detail brush. Oops. So here is the detail brush, and then here's the number, is that the number 2? Yeah, the number 2 brush. So let's use the detail brush to put the little dots, right? Because they have little dots near the front of their nose. Let's use the detail brush here. So this is the Princeton Velvet Touch 5/0. And let's pick up some of this dark color that we made earlier. You may have to dip the brush a couple of times because it doesn't hold a lot of water in that teeny tiny little brush, but we want a nice concentration of paint. And so now we're going to add some depths here because doggies have debts right here. Just little dots along the nose, right? We're also gonna darken this just a little bit. There we go. We have dots. Now, I don't trust this uh, spotter or detail brush to hold enough water to get the whiskers. So that's why I'm moving to the number 2. You've got a lot more brush there to hold more water and get those whiskers going. And that's very thick. I want to add a little bit more water. There we go. I think that'll do it. And then, see, there's a reason why you leave some white in there, right? Because we're going to take this now and we're going to, right across that white, we're adding some whiskers. Oh, it's a little too dry. Add some more water in there. And let's see. Yep. Little whiskers like this. You see the little whiskers coming off there? So we have whiskers. Whiskers! That helps to define the face. And then where else do we want we want little bitty bits of hair in the ear up here. And I want little bitty bits of hair here. So again, I'm using the number 2 and I'm adding some extra hair, little tiny bits of hair right there. And I'm going to add some little bits of hair right here to the ear. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. Hello, fox. Starting to look like a fox, right? Let's see here. Now she's using a very, very, very dark to go into some of the details here in the bottom section. Let me get some of that burnt umber to go down in here. So not she just goes along, like see along the edge of the tail right here to sort of define that a little bit more back in here. So we've got, so that you can really see the tail, right? Let's define that. Nice. So we just got some more brown for the tail. We got you a little bit here. Peeking in between the grass just a little bit right there. And she comes down way down in here again. Some more darkness on the body underneath there. More darkness on the arms. The thing is, you can just keep playing and get more depth by adding more dark layers in there. There we go. More dark layers. How you doing there? How you doing there, Foxy Fox? See, to me, I need more darkness up in here. A little bit more darkness, a little more definition to the hair. Just a little bit more. And a little bit more in here, just to give it a little more shadow. Come on, shadow. And definitely a little bit more of the umber underneath the neck here. So the darkness of the fur. Okay. And I want the top of the shoulder to be a little bit more defined here. Fabulous. Okay. Well, this is definitely something you can play around with. You can look and see, oh, I want more dark here, more dark there. Plus, I like to leave an artwork overnight and then come back to it and be like, how did I do? How did I do? Now I see that she put a little bit of gray in the eye area. So I'm just taking barely any of the blue, super light, and I just added a little bit of gray in with the white for the eye. Okay. She did it a lot darker, but I like the eye to really show myself. Okay, okay, okay. I feel like it needs a little bit more of this browny red up in here because that's the white of the belly, the white of the belly there. There you go. We could just fiddle and play all day long, right? Yay! I would say I'm done. Um, Let me show you what her done is. This is her done. So you see how she went darker? Oh, she also defined that grass. Let's do that. Let's do that little bit of the last defining of the grass. So she has the lighter sap green, and I'm going to change from the number 2 back to the number 4, just because I want a little bit more paint on there. And now we can go with that little bit darker um, hooker's green, right? Let's get a little bit darker. than the other green that was there. And then she just comes in and she's sort of defining the edge of the grass, giving it a little more. She's giving the grass a little bit more dimension. Hey, it can't hurt to have a little more dimension, right? Anywhere that you think that there would be shadow, you add the darker color here to the grass. And this right here in the back. Nice. I like that little extra zhuzh in the grass is great. It really begins to make the grass stand out that little bit. See, sometimes you have to go back and look at the image and be like, okay, what am I missing? What am I missing? This is what I'm missing, a little extra zhuzh here. Nice. This one is going back behind that one. So remember where your fronts and backs are. Woo. Okay, almost done. Almost done. It's a cutie. I would definitely get myself an illustration, I mean, a photograph, and then try the techniques again with a photograph. Let's do this and then this one right here. There we go. That gives a little extra dimension to the grass. I like that. Like that. See, they're little nuanced things that the more you look, the more you're gonna pick up. There we go. Yay! I like it. I like it. The body is like, for me, but you know what? I'm not looking at a picture of a fox. I'm looking at an illustration and following along. So if I actually had a picture of a fox, I'd be able to get those deeper deeps and preserve the whites and all of that based on what I'm seeing in a real life little fox. Um, I'm just looking to see if there's anywhere that I want to come back in with a pen and do a little more detail with the pen here. This is the Winsor and Newton sepia color. And I want to just add a few more hairs in here inside the fox's ear. I think that will help a little bit. And a little bit more hairs here. Just the details. You can come back in with your pens. This is the brown or sepia colored pen. If I felt like I needed to add more darkness in certain places, maybe around the eye, I want to put a little bit more darkness, a little more definition in here, right there. And that way the eye sort of stands out a little bit more. This is the time for you to go back in with your markers, your permanent markers. Hey, Critter Chops, welcome in. I was just doing a project from this book called Watercolor in Nature. Fabulous book. And I was showing some of the techniques that uh, Rosalie Haizlett teaches in the book. This is the frog that I did from the book earlier. And this, we just did this fox that's toward the back of the book here. Whoops, right there. Oh, there's the picture. I could have looked at the picture, couldn't I have? She takes photographs, or of course, like I said, you can go to Pixabay or you can go to Unsplash, or what's the other one? There's another one as well. I'll put the links in the description of the video on YouTube, and you can see the little fox here, the little illustration that she did, and of course the paint colors um, there. And Critter Chops is saying, "How you been?" Well, I've been rather busy because I've had a contractor at my house. We're still working on electric and plumbing and fixing things from the hurricanes last year. So, yes, but that is the conclusion of the um, art lesson part of the show. I hope you enjoyed that. That's using watercolors and your pens and starting out with your pencils and eraser. And this fabulous book, Watercolor in Nature.